everybody, and welcome to the NLC. My name is HitBrain, and I am joined by Aragon as we're getting ready to go into week 7 of the NLC, the final of the regular stages. Aragon, it's been an interesting split. I think it's probably the best way to word it. You know, we've had some ups, we've had natives. We've had some natives. You know, I think the real question is you know, not who's going to make it as the final team in the playoffs, or I think for me is, are natives going to go 0-14? It's kind of, that's what I'm excited to see. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a 0-14 team in this region as long as I've been covering it. I can't think of a time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to the last like 0 whatever team as well in any competitive split, and I think the last time I saw it was maybe Origin going 0-18 back in the EULCS days.
HCK as well,
maybe, but
that was veteran. Ago. That was veteran, and I'm gonna make him remember that. I remember that was him. So yeah, that's another person who's done it. Setting records, I guess. Absolutely. I guess that's the thing. Should we have a look at the schedule for the day and see what games we've got coming up? So we'll be starting the day with Ruddy versus Verdant, Vanir versus Nord, Unique versus Natives, and Domino versus Riddle. I'm pretty sure I know your answer to this, but what games are you excited for today?
I mean, come on, man. Honestly, Unique versus Natives, I want to see. I feel like... No, I'm kidding. Ruddy versus Verdant, it has to be the game of the day. It just has so many implications, right? I believe you were telling me off stream that if Ruddy win and Vanir lose, the game, the week is done, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So Verdant, all they need is 1 win and Vanir to lose 1 game. And then that is them into playoffs, and Vanir out of the running. Just a quick note as well: Verdant tomorrow are playing versus Unique, who are 3-9 right now. Probably going to go 4-9 by tomorrow. So realistically, the expectations are that it's going to be an uphill battle for Vanir. I'm not going to write them off yet because they are on a 4-game win streak. If they go on that 6-game win streak and Verdant lose to Ruddy, then Vanir go through. If they both... Wait, is that how it works? No. Okay, because there's 1 point between them. So Vanir need to go 2-0, and they need Verdant to go 0-2.
Yes.
Verdant got to play Unique, so I think that's going to be a bit of a hard call. But I think, you know, for right now, for the side of Vanir, it's definitely the hardest of the uphill battles. And you know what? I think it's actually probably a really just good place to start. Let's talk about that second game. That is Vanir versus Nord. Like we were saying, a game with a long line here for Vanir. If they lose this game, they're not technically out of the running for playoffs, but like it becomes infinitely harder for them. They really need a 2-0 week.
Yeah, so I think the most interesting thing here is in Vanir versus Nord, you highlighted that Vanir are on a 4-win streak, but it's actually a case of a 4-win streak versus a 5-win streak, right? Nord is actually just superior in terms of that. On top of that, I think you can argue that they're just a better team, right? They seem so complete. Normally what I would do is I would look back to the previous week and see, you know, how did they adapt in this week? I wasn't casting here, so let's just see what they did. But it's just really clear to me that they weren't playing at their best because it felt like they were also experimenting in some ways with, like, for example, WoW and some weak side picks. So I can't look back there. It's going to be a bit of a mystery to see just how strong Nord come in this week because I don't think you know, they'll take these games lightly. They don't want to like mess up the standings, right? I feel like Nord are going to come in here and they're going to just destroy Vanir.
Well, I also feel like, you know, Nord also want this to be a final like good couple of days to this regular season, because then you go into playoffs strong. You know, like you said, they're on a 5-game win streak. If they can go out on a 7-game win streak, because you think of the momentum that carries you forward to. Keep in mind, right now they are in the upper half of the bracket. It'll be them and Riddle right now who are in the upper half of the bracket for our playoffs. If you go in strong into that, then you just shoot straight to finals. You don't even have to worry about the losers bracket. So for Nord, I'm expecting this to be a very eager to win team, and not a team who are going to be experimenting too far. There might be some room for growth, there might be some room for experimentation, but realistically, that's kind of what you use scrims for anyway, not professional matches. So my expectation is Nord are probably going to come in swinging coming into this game. Then our game number 3, a game that doesn't actually mean anything, unfortunately. But all of these teams are out. Unique versus Natives, 3-9 versus 0-12. I think at the moment it's just a pride thing for these guys. You know, Natives, really need a W. Like, it's not been a good split, and there is no beating around the bush on it. It's just not been a good split for them at all. Unique, it's been a marginally better split, but 3-9 is not a score to write home about. So, I feel this is very much, if possible, Unique would like to at least end on 5 wins and then be closer towards that middle of the bracket. Because technically they are the closest of our bottom teams to the middle of the bracket right now, but that's just because the bottom of the barrel is quite deep down at the moment.
Yeah, and I think this is the game for Natives to actually pick up a win on, right? I don't think Unique are that great. I've seen some really big flaws in the gameplay, right? Individually or team play. For example, Nihus, I think while he's a great top laner, he's been really struggling to find his footing this split. And I think on the other hand, you have Spooder, the top laner for Natives, who's actually been doing really well. So you have some avenues to potentially find your first win and maybe go 1-12.
Yeah, I mean, that's an option as well. And then we'll be going to our final game, which is Domino versus Riddle. I think the expectations are Riddle are going to win this game. Domino have been, inconsistent because they've been a team that have challenged some of the high-end teams, but it just feels like they're a little bit lost and they don't understand the mid-game right, or they don't understand their win conditions. Or I think the big thing is it just looks like they don't know how to win. I think that is probably Domino's biggest thing is I think they've really struggled to translate a lead into a victory. Riddle, on the other hand, are a team who are very good at getting a lead and then translating that into a victory. So I think, our last 2 games of the day, probably the easiest to decide. And, I'm here for it. If we get an upset, yeah. But, I mean, realistically, I think the expectations are this should just be a Riddle win over Domino, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can argue otherwise, right? Even when Domino gets some crazy lead, like last week, you're just kind of waiting to see how they'll throw. And it feels really bad to say that because I had so much belief in this roster from the start, but they just let me down too many times, man. Too many times.
You got burnt.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's turn our attention towards this predictions. I forgot about these. Thank you, production, doing my job for me. So, as we can see, for the most part, it's a little bit close. Now, Middlecourt and Twitter are... They've got some copium right now, going for Natives in that game 3.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a divided opinion as well, where Duckling and Twitter have both gone for Verdant in that first game. I think for the rest of it, everybody else is pretty much playing to the script here.
Yeah, and I think the highlight here is if either Duckling or Veteran are right, one of them actually shoots up. I think Duckling can tie for first here. I think that's the main thing. And I wish I went for Verdant as well, just in case Verdant won, because then I could go for first too. But I feel like, I think Veteran swapped prediction at the last second, because I swear this man voted for Verdant as well.
I can't check. Actually, I can check, but I'm not going to, because I'll be looking at my other screen for too long. But yeah, I think, we get to that point. I'm happy as long as I'm above that 80% mark. That's my goal right now. An 80% rate, I'm pretty happy with that one. I had first at a point during the split as well, so I'll take that little win there as well. But let's turn our attention towards this first game of the day, Ruddy versus Verdant. Now, before we get into the talks about this game, I do believe we have a video from Verdant regarding this game. So let's roll that.
Welcome to NLC Trivia. The players are given some questions about the NLC and have to guess the correct answer from 4 possible options. Who were NLC Division 1 champions in summer? A. X7, B. Riddle, C. Dusty, or D. Bifrost?
Dusty. Bifrost.
It was Dusty.
That's Dusty.
That's Dusty.
Which relegation rival did Eminem lose to in Week 8 of summer to confirm they would finish in a relegation spot? A. Niriki, B. Singularity, C. Veneer, or D. Astralis?
Niriki. Maybe Astralis.
Astralis?
Niriki.
Wait, was it the high thing where Singularity got the win streak? Is it Singularity?
Which team won Spring 2022 Division 2 regular split? A. Natives, B. Lightside, C. Flung, or D. Munster?
Natives. Natives, I guess.
It was Natives.
Okay, regular split Monster won.
Oh, it was Monster Rugby.
Which player had the most solo kills in NLC Division 1 2022 Spring and Summer? A. Cries, B. M&S, C. Tempt, or D. Shikari?
M&S. M&S.
I mean, I think if M&S kept playing, I think he still has the most solo kills. Or he still had the most solo kills, but M&S, yeah.
Cries.
M&S.
Which player had the most deaths in the NLC Division 1 Spring Playoffs? A. Kevo, B. M&S, C. Nilla, or D. Duel?
Me? Dual.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it's Nila.
Kevo?
I'm just gonna say Kevo then for fun. It's Kevo.
How many pentakills were there in NLC Division 1 2022? A. 1, B. 2, C. 3, or D. 4?
2. I would guess 3.
1.
Really, 1 then.
Probably 3 or 4. I would say 3.
With 81 games, which was the most picked champion in NLC Division 1 2022, spring and summer? A. Nar, B. Nautilus, C. Aphelios, or D. Zeri?
Nar.
Aphelios?
Aphelios.
Some of the champions are like meta, but I feel like just Nautilus is across the whole board. So it's Nautilus. Yeah.
Who are the NLC Division 3 Summer Split Champions? A. Carolina, B. Invulnerables Esports, C. Formulation Gaming, or D. Verdant?
Verdant.
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 Verdant, no?
Now I'm in the game, I was on the bench. First I was renting, now I'm collecting rent.
Man, honestly, Tom Kick is kind of always a smurf in those things. Like, he always seems to nail it. I don't know. He's super, super good. Lovely to see. Definitely stealing the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire graphic there on the bottom. I saw that, man. Let's talk a little bit more about this game, though, because there is a lot on the line. I believe we have some replays as well from previous games to kind of go over. So, Aragon, you can just guide us through all that and kind of talk about the players that you want to be highlighting getting into this first game of the day.
Yeah, so just to highlight, right, I think the unsung hero, I mean, he does get a bit of hype, right? It's just Nash. I wanted to highlight here with some replays the quality of his engages, because so much of League of Legends at the current moment in time comes down to the quality of your skirmishing and team fighting. And Nash, he puts team fighting on his back every single time on these engaged champions. But that's not all, right? He can play everything. He's super flexible. He used to be a Rakan one trick. Now he plays, you can see him play Renata, Braum, you know, anything else, Lux, Caitlyn bot lanes, Alistair, Rakan, and he will find the engages if he's on those engaged champions. And that's what I want to see. More Rakan clips, right? So here, this one was really important because they're 10k behind in this. And then another 3 knock up there secures this team fight win. And it's just every single game he's on one of these engaged champions, you can count on him to carry it to a victory.
Yeah, he has honestly been so crisp and so clean. Also just a very flexible player, like you're saying. Really, really nice stuff coming out from Nash. Ruddy, you know, have been pretty much distinctly the third best team in their league. Oh my God, Nash every time.
Beautiful,
like,
isn't it?
His Rakan is just such a menace to society, man. He's so hard to handle. Always hitting, like, it's almost as if the moment you're grouped up enough, he will just slide in and just grab you and just, it's done. He's so crisp. I mean, Nash has been around for a while. So it's one of those things where, like, every time we see Nash play, he's always been one of these, like, kind of just very flexible, very capable support players. And, you know, it's nice to see the supports getting a bit of love. I mean, they're getting love as well because they got Milio coming out soon. And I don't know if you've seen that. Oh, my Lord. I am nervous for what he's going to do to the game. Yeah. AoE cleanse and heal, everyone. And you were also talking about the range extension, which is pretty rough as well. But let's talk a little bit more about this game. So what do we think are going to be the defining factors going into this game? You know, what are going to be the key things to kind of watch out for, especially once we get into this champs mode?
Okay, so there's a few things, right? I think the number one thing I want to say is that this week we are actually on 13.4. So it is a new patch, new draft priorities, new everything, a fresh week of scrims to test stuff out. Last week, we did see a kind of set in stone identity for Verdant. It's like they found their style and they want to push that style because they think it's their best style all the way to the playoffs. See how far they can get carried with that. And it just involves the same picks over and over again, which is fine because they're so well practiced at it, right? So what I want to see is how well have Ruddy prepared to play into these champions. And the champions are stuff like Gnar top lane, you know, standard jungle, Azir mid every single time, just complete comfort, right? So I think that's definitely an angle we'll take a look at and in the draft. Other things to look at are, I want to see a mental bounce back for Ruddy, right? I think last week their week was pretty rough. I don't remember exactly who the playing is, but one of the teams was Nord, and then they had another really tough team. But I think the top side, I think it's fair to say, as much as I love Rifty, I think the top side did struggle a little bit last week, especially into WoW in that Olaf game. Watching that Olaf game, watching Ruddy versus Nord that week, it was kind of painful. It was extremely tilting to watch. Every single skirmish, it left... someone was on 1 HP every single time in the Nord games. But yeah, those are definitely the biggest things. And I want to see some Verdant gameplay cleaned up. I think they had a lot of issues with desync where they would want to make a play on one side of the map and someone wasn't ready, right? Like, for example, Errol was in base, coming out of base. The exact same thing if top lane's pushed in, then they try to make a play with Cly and Taxa, and everyone was just kind of out of sorts, you know? So I definitely want to see that addressed too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are into Champ Select. I'm curious to see what the bands are going to look like, because like you were saying, Ruddy had a very clear identity in what they've been playing for the last couple of games. And yes, obviously there has been a patch since then, so things have changed. But you know, there is still room for them just to play what they know and what they can play comfortably. I'll see what some of these changes are. Right now, the Gnar has been left open, and Nilly, I don't know if he's comfortable blind picking it, but we know that he's played it pretty much every game consistently, so that is an option to them. But for now, we're seeing a lot of focus on those AD carries, the Ashe, the Caitlyn, the Varus band away, a Fiora to go in there as well, just to maybe deny some split pushing threat and kind of side lane power over to Nilly, as Verdant will be looking to make that final ban here of the picks and bans. I'm trying to think, Xayah has been a go-to for Kevo. Obviously, they're not going to want to ban that. The Elise is big. Yeah. There goes the Sejuani, which I did believe No Name was playing in those games. And there it is. The Gragas gets picked up, flexible between that mid and top lane, and technically jungle as well. So very, very flexible champion. I mean, you could run it bot if you want to run a Yasuo as well. It's pretty flexible.
Yeah, so I think the other picks that stand out to me that have been left open is also the Jace flex. I feel like Ruddy have actually prioritized a little bit. We've seen Knight do some crazy stuff with Jace, right? You're playing it definitely well. Other picks that stand out to me is Azir for Errol, right? So something I wanted to bring up, because Errol does like the Azir, is that Azir was technically nerfed on 13.4, but there was a really interesting interview with Inven, with Korean mid laner who's very famous for his Azir. His name is BDD, and he said the nerfs to Azir were actually buffs, because you can't feel the early game cooldown and mana nerfs, but you can feel the compensation buffs to the base damage. So very interesting. Maybe Errol values that and picks it first rotation like he has been. On the other hand, you have Ruddy, who have picked the no-name Lee Sin. Was a bit of a meme in the past, but ever since then he got buffed, and it does look like they are leaving themselves open to pick the Lulu flavor of the month picks, which is either going to be Zeri or Aphelios. Aphelios has been rising in priority really hard, especially when lots of bot laners are banned.
This is looking like a pretty staple Verdant draft there as well. The Annie for Cly in the bot lane, the Gnar. I mean, technically the Gragas is still flexible to jungle, so that Annie isn't guaranteed to go in the bot lane, but realistically, I believe Verdant have already played the Annie. That was Veneer.
They have.
It's one of our 2Vs.
No,
one of our
have
2Vs have played it, yeah. So I think we've only really seen it in that support role so far, but it is up and available to be flexed into mid if they want to. Let's see what the final rotation is going to be here from Ruddy. They're going to lock in the Sion for Rifty in the top lane, so obviously you're not going to be winning that lane, but he's just going to be looking to kind of absorb it and play weak side. Something we know Rifty's very capable of doing. Let's see what the bans are going to be to kind of start to target this out a little bit. I'd like to see this Xayah get banned away. Already with the amount of AD carries that have been denied, there's some really... I mean, the more you trim that pool, Ruddy get first pick on it, so they can kind of pick up whatever's left over after this. And we know Kevo has played quite a lot of Xayah. I believe Sivir was another kind of go-to pick as well, but it does look like they are just going to take away Errol's Azir for now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a rough one. I'm a really big fan of this Sion pick. I just think Sion angles at the moment really win games, and Verdant definitely have to make sure to draft something that does a lot of damage and DPS to make sure they can take down the Sion. I really like the Sion for Ruddy in general too, in terms of players, because I definitely think Rifty, like I said before, had been struggling at least last week, and Sion, honestly, you can kind of lose lane and still be relevant. You're just going to be a blob blocking skill shots, right? So I'm really happy with that. Verdant's draft is a little bit less predictable, though, because they do still maintain that flex between mid, top, jungle. That's the value of Gragas. Gragas is just so strong. some bans coming in, the target bans towards Errol, right? Cassiopeia has been picked by Errol in situations where I would argue Cassiopeia isn't the best and has actually lost some games, but he's just so comfortable on it, and we've seen him perform on it before. Same with Azir. You can really expect Azir bans toward Errol. It just looks like his best mid laner, like just straight up. So target bans coming in for me.
Alrighty, well, final ban coming in from Verdant. Let's see what they're going to let's take away here. Let's close out this draft. I'll run the clock down a little bit. There goes the Silas. I think that's a pretty reasonable one with the comp they've got you. Given the cast, the Gnar, the Tibbers, there's so many tools that can just be taken away already. I think it's a pretty comfortable one there. Demboxy is going to get that Aphelios. Like you said, rising in priority and very much a Demboxy champion. He used to play a lot of Aphelios when he was meta. It was a go-to, I think, for just a while for this guy. But I do feel like when we're looking at what they have got open, we know Kevo's been playing quite a lot of this Xayah. I'm trying to think what other champions are open and available. I feel Xayah is a very safe pick here because obviously the ultimate buys you space from those Sion angles you're talking about, but it actually looks like they're going to go for something with a little bit of mobility. Something, again, has also been very, very meta for a long time. They're going to pick up the Zeri here for Kevo, and now looking to kind of round out this draft. Assuming they're going to be looking for a jungler here. Obviously, the Sejuani's been banned away. The Lee Sin's been picked up as well. The Elise is gone. What are they going to be looking to pick up as their jungler to kind of round out this game?
Yeah, it looks like Vi.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty good, right? So in the LPL, what we saw as a counter into the Aphelios and the Lulu is just dumping a lot of single target onto the Aphelios in the hopes that you do burst him out before he gets peeled, right? I think we saw stuff like Vi plus Tilia plus Renekton, and they all just flash on the Aphelios and he can't do anything. But no, I don't think the Vi on its own will do enough here. Interestingly, I'm so excited for the Aphelios, right? We have so many, we have a couple of variations of the builds. Hipbrain, I don't know if you've seen the new Bloodthirst Overheal buff, but essentially what can happen now is Bloodthirst to shield at level 18 is about 450, I think. And on top of that, Overheal got buffed, so you could just walk around with like 4k HP as an AD carry. It's really disgusting. I don't know if you remember old Targon's AD carries? It's that. It's that. So that's back. And I think with this level of frontline plus backline, it's just a really well-rounded comp for Ruddy.
Oh god, Overheal's back. I don't know, man. I do you remember that like brief period where we had like fleet footwork Overheal when it like first came out, and like 80 characters just walking around with shields at like level 1, and it was like you just couldn't do anything. It was awful. Yeah, we're back on that meta apparently. But you know what? Honestly, I'll take it because when you look at this draft, it is just vastly better and like a bit more different from what we were seeing. You know, for so long. I mean, yes, there's a Vi still in the game. Yes, there's a Zeri still in the game, and a Lulu, I guess, as well. But it's still a little bit more varied. We had quite, things grew quite stale for a while. Yeah. I'm curious to see, you know, if this is just these teams or, you know, how everyone else in the league is going to be playing. Because I think it's one of those things where you can look at what other regions are doing, but NLC doesn't do what other regions do. I mean, we do to a degree, but like the meta from LPL or LEC trickles down to us in a degree, but I also think there's like, you know, for the most part, we have like people who are more comfortable picking just their own champions and maybe not playing what is exactly meta. I think bot lane has kind of been strictly stuck into like the meta bot lane for a while, but I think with the other lanes, you know, there's been a little bit of room for wiggling and changing things up a little bit. So, you know, as things develop going into the playoffs, I don't know what patch we're on for the playoffs. Do we know this
13.5.
Okay,
so it's a new patch again. It's going to be great.
Whew. That's a rough schedule. That's a lot of changes at like towards the end of the season for these guys. I can't remember what 12.5 is off the top of my head. Is that the LeBlanc buffs? Or is that
Don't even ask me. I'm trying to wrap my head around 13.4 first.
I can't remember which one LeBlanc's buffs. As a LeBlanc player, I'm very excited for. Yeah. Maybe that patch. Maybe we'll see some LeBlanc. I don't know. I can't remember if that's 12.6 or 12.5. Either way, doesn't matter because we're on 12.4. And we're getting into our first game of the day here. Verdant versus Ruddy.
Yep.
Remember, this is a very, very important game for Verdant. Ruddy right now, they are locked into playoffs. I believe there's some wiggle room for them. Yes, technically, they could still make it into the upper bracket. So they still want to win this game to make sure that they are within as best chances as possible of taking that top spot and basically avoiding having a chance to avoid the lower bracket.
Yeah. So just lining up some expectations for this game as well to build off of what you said. I definitely think this is going to be a bit of a snoozer in the early game. You do have some nice setup with Lee Sin. That's typically what you pair him with, right? Talia setup plus Lee Sin is okay. But are you really going to be bursting out a Gragas with W? I don't think so, right? So I think that kind of stonewalls that play. And in the end, we're probably only going to get like fights around Herald. If something does happen in the bot lane in the 2v2, it's probably just going to be down to individual skill, because I don't think there's huge amounts of setup in either side lane for either team to play off either. So if anything's going to happen, it's going to be mid lane 2v2 into bot, I think.
I love it. I love it when mid jungle duos are like, it's the pinnacle for me. I love seeing a good mid jungle duo, because those two combined as a role, they can just have so much impact on like the state of the game and the state of the map. So I'm very excited to see what these guys are going to do, and the skirmishing there is going to be brutal. So it'll be really, really fun fights to watch as well. If you haven't seen Annie since the changes, that was last patch, I believe. So you've been under a rock, but Annie now starts with her passive fully charged. The main thing is, though, how much work Tibbers does now. He is infinitely more tanky. I believe he has more damage as well, because he gets 75% of her AP on top of the health he gets, his base health, which he never used to have. So Tibbers is really tanky, and with Aerie, you just proc it infinitely. So team fights are going to be scary when Clyde comes in, because even if he misses Tibbers and like misses that big AoE stun, Tibbers is still going to be eating a lot of damage for and skill shots that get thrown out, and just burning for so much health. It's really, really oppressive.
Yeah, and something else Clyde can use this Annie for is potentially to roam as well. We saw him last week roaming around with this Annie, covering Gnar and Nilly on this Gnar in the top side last week as well. Granted, he was in a much more dangerous role. He had to survive Camille plus setup as a Gnar, but now we could still see Clyde run around, maybe looking mid lane, maybe looking top lane on some slow pushes, potentially to find something. I don't think he'll be that great, because again, we just have Stonewall picks all the way across the board, meaning there's probably going to be a classic Verdant game of, we do nothing and then win in the end, or, Ruddy takes it in the end, but I definitely think it's going to be slow.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. For now, there doesn't seem to really be a priority on who has push in this bot lane. Verdant are losing these trades, and ouch, there you go. That's the old sniper coming in from Denvoxney, doing a nice chunk of damage there to Cly. But Nash is starting to run a little bit low on the old mana department. Now, Cly does have that stun charged up, which, basically can define quite a lot within these trades that will be breaking out. Meanwhile, Nita, kind of expected, is going to have quite a lot of power here in this bot lane, in this mid lane. There we go, I can speak. Azero obviously on a melee kind of bruisery champion. I know you do go full AP here, but going to be getting outraged pretty heavily here. No Name was looking to see if he could do something bot lane, but he was spotted out by Clyde there, so I think we are just going to see them back off for now. And as you predicted, being a little bit more of a slower one, as Kevo could get locked down by the Gravitum. There it is. The Q comes in. He flashes out, jumps the wall. They can look for the stun from Cly if they need to. As another Q comes in onto Cly, he's not going to get locked down by the Gravitum. And that is going to be the flash burn from Kevo.
Yeah, and you could just see the lack of setup, right? Your best setup is Gravitum Gun from Denvoxney, which is great, but then there's not even any follow-up from Nash because he's on Lulu, right? So what might have been a kill with another support, it doesn't actually turn out into anything. And the main reason this is, I think, is a decent problem for Ruddy early game at least, is No Name doesn't really have anything to do, right? At least in one setup to be able to make plays. But I think this Gragas really answers the 2v2 really well. And then what No Name's going to have to do is try and team fight, land some crazy flanks and hooks. Kicks. Versus a Gragas and all this peel and CC. I think No Name has his work cut out for him, really, especially come these skirmishes.
No, I agree. I think he really does. Got ourselves onto that 5-minute mark. And Clyde did just rotate through mid lane there, taking out a ward, but not really going to find an opportunity to make anything of it. Taxa is in the area as well, and have Verdant set up a sneaky gank here. Nita, I said, was about to push the wave out, but actually Errol just going to one-shot the back minions, so that opportunity has long since gone. So they're looking to charge up the Q here. And I think it was a little bit too early leaving the bush. Nita definitely smelt something was up. I think Clyde had been missing for just too long, so he assumed he was still in mid.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, if I was Verdant there, I wouldn't be sure if Nita could see me or not and know if I was there, because Nita was just, he had me clenched, right? He kept hanging on the edge of aggro for the side of Verdant. You really didn't know if they were there or not, so really well played by Nita, managing to waste a lot of time, and in the end, they're going to get Dragon off of it.
Yeah, looks like No Name going to be uncontested on this one. Although Taxa is in the area, but he's smiteless. I mean, so's No Name actually. So there is a world. Oh, both are going to have their smite at exactly the same moment. But I do believe Taxa either doesn't feel comfortable or isn't aware that it is going on. So instead, they just clear out his red side and is going to move into this bot side. Large wave crashing in. I think he's here more for security than a gank potential. I think he just wants to make sure that Kevo does get this wave shoved in. The dragon has been picked up, and I think they're aware that this is going on. He's going to jump out. They get the lockdown. The cleanse comes out. Then Voxney's low. All it would have taken was a couple more shots. The kick comes in from No Name. Clive puts the shield on himself and tries to jump away to safety. He's able to do so. And now, looking like Verdant are just going to have to disengage from this play. Then Voxney playing with fire. No summoner spells up at all now.
And you could just see, right? Clyde was posturing the entire time with stun for a solid 30 seconds, permanently sitting there just in case they walked up and they end up doing it, right? Problem is your only setup is an anti-stun. Second that runs out, you have no follow-up anymore. And once again, the disengage is too good for anything meaningful outside of a flash. You can imagine as well, the flash is just going to be up for the next dragon, and in the end, this gank probably won't, nothing will come of it, right? I'm really surprised No Name didn't keep going. Clyde didn't have flash for that entire fight, and if I was him, I definitely would have had some Lee syndrome and just kept going, and probably died. So No Name's a lot better than me at Lee Sin, so it's probably why.
This is why you're a top laner. All
True.
you know is walk forwards. Walk forwards and hit them. Looks like Kevo is just going to hang around in this for now. Wants to try and get the zap onto the cannon so he doesn't lose too much there. Has got his support coming back in. Clyde, obviously, having to get forced out. Going to be still only level 4, while Nash is level 5. And level 6 on both of these supports are actually very impactful within the fights and in the skirmishing, which we do expect to see maybe starting up relatively soon, to be honest. Having that wild growth and having that Tibbers are really going to be able to change the state of a fight. And with Rift Herald spawning up, it does feel like right now, No Name, his objective game is very much there. He is really looking to play for the team and setting them up on that objective front. As Errol going to get himself knocked into the stun. Really nice angle there by Niter, actually.
Yeah, and this is our first timer, our first significant timer, 8 minutes, 7 minutes. Both supports coming towards Herald. I imagine we might see a brawl. You can probably guess that someone will get picked or someone will get chunked enough to the point where one team concedes the Herald. However, you do see Kevo running through mid lane, and this is because Zeri actually rushes boots first. She can actually, this is like a lesser known thing, she can actually rotate to Herald faster than other AD carries, because not many other AD carries rush tier 2 boots. So what Kevo can do now, after securing this Herald by being here, is he can just run down bot side and catch the wave as long as he has some cover.
Yeah, he is having to go the long way, though, because Ruddy have rotated their entire team into that bot side jungle, bar their top laner. So Den Voxney with the red-white combo is going to be able to quickly take down maybe 3 plates here, to be honest. He's got a fairly large wave and a cannon tanking it. He lost a stack on his Q, on his red and white guns there, but he still gets himself 3 plates. So ultimately, this Herald play now has to go down in the bot lane to inject Kevo with some gold, and it has to be worth it.
Who needs Herald, then Voxney says, right? It's been so long since I've seen an Aphelios actually just sit there and hit a tower, because Aphelios has been out of meta for a while, that I forget he's a Rift Herald in and of himself, right? And you could just see 3.5 plates. It's almost like that Rift Herald rotation wasn't worth it.
No, it totally wasn't. I mean, obviously, it depends on the cost and what they gain here. Taxa is now level 6. Remember, then Voxney hasn't got his flash. His cleanse is coming up relatively soon. And they may just try and force a play in this bot side. Pings have gone down. I think Ruddy saw Taxa on the minions. They would have now. So looks like the play is just going to be shoving this bot side and maybe turn your attention towards this Herald. So Kevo is just absorbing as much gold as possible. He knows he's behind. Pretty significant, actually, when you look at Den Voxney versus him. Another little shove there from Errol onto Niter. The pings are coming in. It looks like they're bringing multiple people down to this bot side. Herald doesn't get used bot side, actually. Looks like Taxa instead wants to hold on to it and maybe look for an opportunity to maybe use it in a different lane.
And I just want to remind everyone that this is expected. This is Verdant. They are synonymous with slow, okay? In terms of statistics, they are the 6th lowest team into... They are 6th place, rather, in how many plates they take on average. On average, taking only 3 plates per game. Right, so really, really not a proactive team early. They like to sit on their laurels, just sit back and scale. And this is honestly, once again, I hate to say the word synonymous again, but it really is with Kevo, right? Kevo, every team Kevo is on, every team that Tom Kick is on, they like to scale. They draft 3 scaling lanes, maybe some, Stonewall picks topside, and they just sit down and they say, you know what, we're going to win team fights.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting as well because I think there's a similar thing about Denvoxy. Denvoxy is a player who, wants to kind of hit those 2 to 3 item marks before he really gets in on the game. I think obviously his laning phase is can be a little bit more aggressive depending on, the fact that first of all he's with Nash, so he's with a very capable support, which, really alleviates him and buys him that space to be a little bit more aggressive. But also that rotation obviously just bought him a whole bunch of gold. Remember, plates worth 175 gold a plate as well. So Denvoxy was gifted quite a lot of gold. He's got that Bloodthirster. Look at the shield on this guy. How much is that? Is that a 350 shield?
That's without Severum too, because Severum also gives a shield. I cannot wait for your reaction. As soon as he gets that shield and it's just stacked, it's going to be so funny. But second dragon going over to Ruddy in this early game. Verdant really don't mind giving up these tools, giving up these dragons, saying we're going to contest on Soul Point, right? That's the significant trick.
Hey, observers, could I quickly see the gold lead? Just to see how significant? Yeah, there it is. 1,000 gold lead in the bot side already at 12 minutes.
Brutal.
That is a really brutal lead,
I think
especially
it's gonna be another plate.
Oh, maybe. They're actually going to herald here. Nilly has demolished, so Pop and Pow should be able to equalize out the 3 plates, at least gaining himself a plate lead over Rifty, as Rifty doesn't end up losing that trade. But Denvoxy gets the first. Okay, gold lead's even bigger. That's 625 gold to Denvoxy. He just got what is that? 2 kills plus Triumph. That's 2 kills plus Triumph. How much gold does Triumph give?
So no Triumph. No Triumph. Overheal.
No, but I'm saying the equivalent of 2 kills plus Triumph.
Of course.
I can't remember how much gold you get for Triumph. Is it 50 gold?
No, I think it's less than that, right? I think I'm only 25.
Okay, so it's just
my
under
memory
that.
isn't great.
He just got 2 kills worth of gold just from a tower. That's
nuts.
That's a very... his base was a BF sword and a crit cloak.
And I am telling you, Aphelios is not balanced, okay? The things you see, there's an 80 carry in the LPL called Leave. He was a replacement to Viper, and he is just flashing forward into 10 people and 1v9ing every single time with Aphelios Lulu. This duo is not balanced. You don't get Aphelios Lulu, you can just pick another enchanter like Renata or something like this too. It also works really well, but combined, Sion plus Aphelios plus Lulu and a mage in mid lane, I think you're golden. I really do think once you ban a load of 80, oppressive 80 carries, the game whooping ones like Ashe support and Caitlyn bot lane, you can really pick this bot lane and just win for free. Look at that shield.
That's not okay.
It's so grim.
That is... I tried to... Is that 400 or 500 gold?
And the shield scales, right? It's the Bloodthirster max shield scales level. I believe it's 180 to 450 max. So this isn't anywhere near how big it will be. It is only going to get worse for the side of Verdant when they see him walking up to them. I mean, you don't even want to trade. You just want to run away.
I mean, how do you? How do you trade into this? This is brutal. Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a hard one to deal with, unfortunately. Level 9, at least for Kevo, he's holding out in levels to his counterpart, but he is significantly behind in the old gold department. And with Rifttown spawning up, you can already see Ruddy, they're just accelerating the pace of this game. They've shifted all of their team towards his top side, and Kevo is about to get hit by a Graviton, and that is probably going to be him donezo, as No Name should just be able to just slide in, execute it, and first blood to Ruddy. 14 minutes in, Nita has to use the stopwatch, as Taxa is going to be looking for him. May come in for the Tibbers. They've got the follow-up. They've got the kill. Nita is going to go down as Cly gets the shutdown on the Annie. That might just be enough to stop this Rift Herald from happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what you just pointed out there. It's really crucial that they deny this Herald, because that could snowball into even more for this Aphelios. So that pick from Cly there and from Taxa burns the stopwatch, which means also at the next team fight, Nita isn't going to have stasis. You know, stasis is really broken versus Vi, but it got consumed. So now Verdant managed to turn around the game, and maybe, just maybe, they can catch Kevo back up to Denvox now.
It's going to be a tool loss. It's going to be a very, very tool loss to see if they can catch him up to that. But here's hoping. We'll have to see. For now, Kevo just going to be collect. Oh! He's just absolutely. He's doing so much damage. He hasn't even got his IE yet.
Interestingly, this isn't the only build you can go for. There's some Aphelioses in the Chinese league LPL who are going just Gale Force Infinity Edge and just going raw damage. But I'm personally a big fan of this. Just seeing that shield, right? I think you know what I think it is. I think it's the intimidation factor, right? The enemy team seeing it and they just think there's no hope.
Okay, so Rifty right now has 2.7k health. I think then Voxy's about 1,300, 1,400. Then you add the shield. You factor the shield in. So
It's almost 2K.
He's almost 1.5. So that shield is what? Right now it's 1, 2, 3. It's about 450.
Yeah.
He's getting to probably
Without
without when he gets like the Bloodthirster fully stacked Nash shields, he's probably looking at like 2,200, 2,300 health, I reckon. Like just on very, very like quick maths. So he's like 400 health behind what the Scion is going to be rocking at the moment. That's intimidation factor. Yeah, you might be right. As Cly is going to have to use Tibbers, but it's on to Nash and Dev Voxney with the red and white. It's time to say goodnight. Down he goes.
And what can Verdant do? They're trying to cross-map, but people are getting picked. Cly is just getting picked, and this is something I highlighted in the pre-game. Cly just walking into River and getting picked. This happened all of last week, and it's one of those desyncs I talked about in games. Before they would try to make plays, but everyone was elsewhere, like in base or something, and Cly would be trying to get vision when he doesn't need to, right? And it's just happening again. Last time it was on Nautilus, so at least he was tanky, but now, as an Annie, if you get caught, you're just dead. And now Verdant cannot cross-map, right? They get top lane tier 1, but they've given up 3rd Dragon. You're almost giving up Chemtech Soul versus a Lulu. And that empowers shields. We're going to see him an even bigger Felios shield.
Oh, didn't think about that. That's horrible.
I love it so much.
Look at that health bar. That's an AD carry. He hasn't even based yet, by the way. Since we previously talked about items, I believe.
Probably Infinity Edge next.
He might have got boots too. I can't remember. But either way, he's looking scary. He's going to go to base now. This should just be the IE. And honestly, for Verdant, they might just be looking at tomorrow's game now. I think if you're Veneer right now, you're probably very happy to see the state of this game. Obviously, Veneer do have to play Nord in the next game, though, so they can't get too ahead of themselves.
Oh, that's brutal, isn't it? That strength of schedule is a little bit brutal. But no, Rifty might actually get collapsed on. I think he can ult out if he smells it early enough. But does look like he might get dived. It's a Scion, though. And he does have Jackshow, the raw, tankiest mythic you can get. If he holds this wave, potentially wave clears it. But I do think he can maybe ult out here. He's not trying.
Oh, he dodged the Tibbers. He's actually looking to get out. He's got the ult.
He's 1v5.
No, he actually ulted into the wall. Tax is chasing after him. He's holding them 1 versus 5. Nilly has to flash for the slow. Taxa finds the knock-up. And Rifty with the shield. Just about holding on. There we go. Taxa takes him down. But they burnt so much for that.
That was, case in point, the most fun part about being a tank top lane. Just tanking 5 people, and you just know Rifty has a grin on his face, because his whole team managed to cross-map off of that play, him buying 30 seconds of time on that dive. Look, they've taken top tier 1, pushed down to top tier 2, and are taking all the camps. It's just not even worth to kill Rifty at this point.
No, especially when you think Taxa, Nilly, and Cly invested flash. That was 3 flashes, 2 ultimates. I don't know if Errol ulted. His is on cooldown, so I'm going to assume it was as well. That's a lot invested for a Scion. And he's gone back to base. He's got a Barmies. He's got Ninja Tabai. He's got himself the not crit cloak, sorry, the armor, the cloth armor as well. Like, he's just stacking more and more armor. He is not threatened by the Rod of Ages Gragas at the moment.
And I was speaking to a coach on the LEC actually, and they were talking about top lane builds in the Nar vs Scion matchup specifically, and they were definitely a bigger fan of the Black Cleaver rush into the Scion to help with that shred. I am sure Tax's Black Cleaver did so much work in killing that Scion there, but even then it was so slow. Because essentially, when you have a Trinity Force versus Scion, you're kind of just... Oh! Is that a half hit?
Oh my word, the Infernum hits, but it doesn't quite finish off the job. Kevo chunked heavily. Is going to be able to heal back up with his Immortal Shield Bow and clear out the wave. But again, this is just allowing Ruddy to go in for the invade. They cleared up bots top side. earlier. Now they're just clearing out the bot side of the jungle. I don't believe they were spotted by that Scryers either. So just more and more being lost here. This is very, very hard for Verdant. They are down a significant amount of gold.
I think Errol flashed. He must have.
Do you think?
Yeah. I think I saw him flash at the bottom of the screen. I think he might have nearly gotten Niter flipped with that Talia W. And now you just lose another tool. Talia, Gragas flash E is just too powerful. There's an engage coming down
They're
mid
going
now.
for it. They're going to jump onto Denvoxy. They get the Gnar back into everybody. Denvoxy flashes away. Can he get away? No, he can't. The shutdown's there for Errol. Verdant have found themselves an opening and an opportunity. Rifty slides into the fight a little bit too late. He's losing a lot of HP. The shove back underneath the tower into the knockup. Taxa goes down, and he's got the Timbers coming in forwards as well, and they trade out 2 for 1. Verdant, my hat goes off to you. That was a really, really well executed fight, considering how significantly they were behind.
And finding that play onto the Aphelios, this is exactly what I wanted to see. Utilizing that hard engage the second Rifty is in that side lane. You saw Rifty had to TP in there very slow and very late. And they managed to find it. Look at this. They managed to get onto him. And the second he's not auto-attacking, the second he's CC'd, which is a really big reason why you pick this Vi into the Aphelios. No matter how many shields, right? A Vi is immune to CC in that ultimate. So she can't get displaced by the Lulu ultimate. Either you just burst the Aphelios and he cannot sustain through it.
That's honestly really, really good stuff. Like,
yeah.
You can see, you talked at the beginning of the game about how, Verdant are a slow team and they rely heavily on their team fighting. They did show us they are a team with insane team fighting strength. The problem is that they're going to go for it again, actually. Denvoxy this time getting jumped away. Nobody's quite in the right position to go for it. Everything used to keep him alive as Nearly gets himself knocked up. He does get the Gnar, but No Name finishes him up. And this time, Verdant maybe getting a little bit too overeager, a little bit too greedy. And ultimately, that's going to be Soul over to Ruddy.
And they're just trying to find these surprise engages, which is actually what I think they need. But it's just not enough, right? You can see Denvoxy living on, honestly, full HP. They managed to burst the shield because there's no follow-up from Taxa's ultimate, and they just do not do enough damage to burst him through the Severum and the White Gun. It's just too much single target damage as well, and Taxa falls, which secures them that Chemtech Soul, and now the Baron, and you just got to wonder, is this game?
Let's see if they can actually get any level of defense. Cly, does he have flash? Yes, he does. He's going to blast cone in. He throws Tibbers down a little bit too early. And that is the end of their AD carry. Clyde didn't flash into the pit. He missed Tibbers. And Verdant will pay the ultimate price. Nobody will get away from this one as Clyde goes down. Errol is quick to follow. Ruddy with Baron. And 3 members down.
And they try to contest, but it's just not enough. Verdant, what do you do from here? You've got a death push, right? I think that's the only thing you can do. You just got to hope and pray. Maybe you go into the side lane here, hope Rifty overextends and you burst him, but even then he's a Scion. Maybe Niter goes into side lane. You punish that 4-1 that they're inevitably going to do with this Baron buff, but it's not looking great.
Not at all, unfortunately. And it looks like they're actually investing quite a lot of members towards this bot side of the map. So you got that Baron. They decided not to go for the tier 2 in the mid lane. They want to go for these side lane ones here. But with Soul, it is going to be very, very hard right now for Verdant to find themselves an opportunity. And that Baron on as well. Maybe there's a miracle in there. Denvoxy still flashless, Keel, which is a point to kind of keep your mind on. But Denvoxy now got that Kraken Slayer. 3 items over Kevo, who's only got the IE and the Immortal Shield Bow, so significantly behind as tier 2 tower falls in the mid lane. And it feels like Verdant, outside of like a desperation engage, this is probably going to be it. The cast comes down, then Voxney is going to be able to find the kill. He gets the cleanse off, he gets the Lulu ult, he gets the follow-up, the kick has connected, and in comes No Name. The Weaver's Wall does break off a couple of people from any more kills. Niter kind of inting some of his teammates there, but they will be able to crack open that tier 2. They've got a wave following them up. They've still got this Baron buff, and it looks like here we are for Ruddy. They are in to Verdant's base, and Verdant will have to wait for tomorrow to see if they can make it into the playoffs. A crushing defeat for them after a just seriously good mid-game fight. But Ruddy, they were just too far ahead. Denvoxy, he just got the kill combo. And oh my word, Kevo's health bar is gone.
And I think this just lends, testament to the fact that Ruddy, they're our structured team. I do believe Ruddy are like the cleanest and have definitive clear plans more so than any other team in the league. Definitely, actually. You can always see that whenever they draft a win condition, they definitely do play for it. It's almost always the case. They never do anything off script. They are like, what's the term? A to B team. Just definitely ABCs, they're fundamentals, pure fundamentals. And they're showing it, right? Have they given any windows for Verdant to punish outside of an early kill onto Niter? I don't think so.
Not that I can think of, no. They've just been, a very, very solid team all split long. Yeah, there's been hiccups, but I think they've learned from those hiccups. And also, a lot of their mistakes have been versus teams who are really, really solid. As Cly...
The long con flank? Maybe?
This might be the longest connest of flanks there has ever been. Also, keep in mind, Nilly has only just started to build up that Narbar. So if he comes in with the TP flank, I don't know what world this can work in, but Cly is still waiting. They're bringing the teleport in. He's coming down. Then Voxy with about 8k health is going to walk into this Annie. There's the Tibbers. They barely scratched the surface. His shield doesn't go. They throw everything down. The wall's been there. Then Voxy finally loses his shield, and he's shut down by Kevo. Nilly's coming in. He's going to look for the wallop. He gets himself polymorphed, and he misses the Gnar. They're now chasing onto Rifty. Nash has been slowed. In comes No Name to maybe save the day for the rest of the team. They jump onto Rifty a little bit more. That Cleaver, they got a lot of work to work with. Knockup will land onto Nilly. Rifty still clinging to life. They used everything to kill them Voxy, and it feels like Verdant have run out of fuel in this tank. But Ruddy, they're not done yet. A beautiful seismic shove there from Niter to secure a return kill onto Taxa. And with everything thrown, with literally every tool in the toolbox used, Ruddy still come out on top. They only got them Voxy for Verdant. That is absolutely devastating for Verdant there.
And Rifty is just unkillable in that fight. You could see, even though Denvoxney falls, even though they find the dream fight, and before this fight happened, I wanted to highlight the only way Denvoxney dies now is a beautiful cask, which puts him into 5 people. I think that's the only way, and that was absolutely the case. But after that, it doesn't matter. Everyone's just too snowballed, and even without Denvoxney's huge Aphelios, Rifty just can't die, so they just can't kill anyone, right? And eventually Niter's damage, eventually No Name's damage all comes through, and Verdant just have to run. They just have to scatter and die.
Yeah, it's really, really hard, because, I mean, Kevo right now, he needs to get that armor penetration if he wants any hope to deal with it, but he's actually going for that Hurricane third. Pretty standard of a Zeri, but Rifty is too tanky, man. And then Voxy is getting launched onto. They throw everything down. He's still full health. Stopwatch is there. 3-man knockup from Rufty. And Rifty is going to be able to save the day of them Voxy. A knockup comes in. No Name slides forwards. And he gets himself an unstoppable kill onto Kevo. Nilly trying to desperately get away. Does Gnar out in the nick of time. But Errol, he's on the wrong side of the map. No way for him to get back at the moment. Is going to get the reset off, but with no Kevo, with no Cly, I think this might be all she wrote here for the side of Verdant. Nearly able to launch himself out for now, but they've got to somehow clear through this wave. I don't think they're going to be able to do so. Stopwatch comes out. Knockup will follow. Nearly's able to flash away, but No Name will slide in to make sure that he is going to go down. Nearly somehow able to get away with it, but the Nexus has been left bare. A beautiful seismic shove coming in once again. And here we go. 29 minutes on the clock. Verdant, unfortunately, collapsing at the seams. Nearly with a beautiful seismic shove just to pad the score. But Niter will make sure the Nexus pops. And Ruddy will take the win.
And from start to finish, I don't think there was any windows, genuinely. Unless they get the dream team fights. What could you do? Genuinely,
I mean,
what
honestly,
could you do?
I think, realistically, Verdant played some of those mid-game fights as good as they could. Like, if that gold lead wasn't that big, this game would probably still be going on. I think they just gave up too much early. I think the big and the key kind of look back was, you were right about what Zeri does. Yeah. Tier 2 boots, run down mid, secure that Rift Herald. But the cost it came at was just too much gold injection into Denvoxy. He got that Bloodthirster very early. Like you said, if you get the Lulu and the Aphelios with this Bloodthirster overhill combo, you know, Denvoxy's a tank. We saw, and when we see some of these fights back again, I want to crucially look at that. I hope we have it. That fight at Red Buff just before the game ended, where they threw everything at Denvoxney, and after like everything had hit. That was when they got past the shield. Like, it was everything and then the health bar. He was so hard to kill. And it was just a really, really clean game. I'm curious who you think the MVP is for this game. That's what I'm curious.
I mean, look, I just think Denvoxney is just so consistent. Like, absolutely so consistent. I don't think No Name did the most. I don't think Rifty did the most. I think he did his job, right? Because that was the only lane where he was getting bullied. But Denvoxney really capitalized on having this lead. Yes, he got caught out sometimes, but they really caught... I think they caught the whole of Ruddy off guard. Not just Denvoxney with some of these engages, right? Especially some of Errol's casts. And I want to really shout him out. They were really good.
I would like to argue that whenever Denvoxney got caught out, it wasn't him making a misplay. It was just a really good play from Verdant.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree.
I don't think it was like a misplay punishment. I mean, this is the saddest Tibbers I've ever seen in my life from Clyde. I was expecting either the blast cone or the flash in, kind of get the 4-man Tibbers down. Obviously, you get the magic shred from the Baron. Nope, misses Tibbers and then waddles away, sadly. This might just be after that play in the bot side. Yeah. Oh, no, maybe it comes a little later. Either way, Denvoxney just... I have to agree. I think Denvoxney definitely was MVP for this game. I think Nita, with an honorable mention, his seismic shots were beautiful. This is the one. Look at Denvoxney's health bar. Find it, they throw everything at him, and he just goes straight back to full health. Stopwatch eats up some of the damage as well. He was just immortal in this game, man. Absolute demon. But yeah, I do think that Denvoxney... Nita was MVP. No, not MVP. Denvoxney was MVP. Nita was honorable mention because his seismic shoves were just absolutely beautiful. Really, really clean stuff coming in from these guys. And honestly, Ruddy, they're still playing towards a potential top 2 finish because if they can get that, they get into the upper side of the bracket.
I do believe we have an interview standing by.
Oh, we do. Yeah. Hey, I believe it's Cly. Cly, how you doing, mate?
Hello. I'm good into the game, but happens.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I wouldn't say you into the game. It was just a very, very hard game, to be fair.
No. I hinted. We pushed level 2 when we shouldn't, and then we have to burn flash for no reason, which makes the game really hard from early on. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess you spotted it. Let's talk a little bit about what this week means for you guys, because obviously right now you and Veneer are playing for that final spot in playoffs. This loss doesn't knock you out of the running by any means. You were still ahead of Veneer in the store by 1. So you more than Veneer had the flexibility to drop a game. But, going into tomorrow, who are you playing? Are you playing versus natives or Unique?
Unique, I think.
Unique. Yeah. How are you feeling about going into that? Do you feel confident that you're going to make it to playoffs? Or do you think, this was still pretty important loss and this could change things a bit?
Yeah, I mean, obviously last week we should have went 2-0. We kind of fumbled a free win for no reason. So it's a bit rough, but I feel like we are starting to play better and better. I think this game was mainly on me and Kevo, just autopiloting in level 2, which made the game hard. So as a whole, we're coming together much better and looking good. To follow up on your question a bit, how we feel about tomorrow, I guess, and going into playoffs. I mean, obviously, I already think I'm in playoffs, because I don't see a word of us not going there. So hopefully one of the teams that Vanir faces loses and we win tomorrow, and it's all good.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. So, okay, that actually ties into the question I had prepared, right? I just want to, have we seen everything from Clyde? Because I've seen, right, and I don't mean to nitpick in some of your plays, I've seen you get caught in river a lot, right? Going to your vision, is that something that's happening a lot? Do you think that can be fixed? Do you think it's your main issue? What do you think your main issues are?
I think just right now, I mean, it's kind of always been lane. I feel like I'm not playing lane too good. I mean, the vision thing is just, we're behind. I'm trying to get more than I should, I guess. So it just kind of snowballs enemy lead a bit more than it should. It's just a bad habit I have where I feel like I can do more than I should. And then I just end up getting caught a lot. But yeah, hopefully I can fix that. It's something I'm working on. Trash is also becoming meta, so I'm kind of happy. I'm a one trick in the end, so.
Well, I mean, seeming that this is basically the end of the split, you've still got tomorrow, but we are pretty much at the end of the regular season. What do you think you guys have improved upon the most? What do you think has kind of been the biggest room for growth within this team?
I mean, I feel like we stabilized our early game a lot, which helps. I feel like we have clear ideas on how we want to play the game and how we want to win the games, which actually makes the game playable now compared to some of the games that we played. So I feel like it's that, and we just need to continue working on our strength, and we'll for sure make a good run in playoffs.
So you stabilized your early games, apart from that level 2 in this game, eh? Clyde, thank you very much for joining us here in the interview. Good luck with your games tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you at playoffs. See you later, mate.
Thank you, sir.
And there we go. We have Dem Voxney, the man of the hour, coming in from a pretty disgusting win there, to be honest, mate. You were basically a tank on the Aphelios. How was that game for you? That must have been just the funnest game as an AD carry, right?
It was chill. I don't know if it was that fun. It was just like, we do our thing, we win. You know, like, I think this is the typical Ruddy play style, how we like play, how we perform the best. Why can I hear some random guy talking? Anyway, like, what the producer guy is talking in my ear. Anyway, like, we've gotten back to the clean games. I think last week was a bit of a fluke, so happy like showing first game this week was like clean and how we like it. So.
No, I wanted to ask, because last split on Dusty, I feel like it wasn't so controlled. Right, am I right in saying this? I feel like it wasn't so controlled and way more hectic gameplay. You know, you had Diana Yasuo combos fighting. I guess maybe they were around objectives, but do you feel like you become a more complete player? Because I feel like this is a very, controlled environment. Is this the coach is doing? Like, what's going on there? Because it is, you are, I feel like you are a fundamentals team.
Yeah, for sure. I think we, from the start of the split, wanted to play good no matter the opponent. We wanted to be able to win against, like, in theory, anyone, and that's kind of what we've been practicing towards the whole time. I think a big thing was for me last summer, we had a really good run, and I think we were quite controlled. Like, sure, we had our random moments, but like overall we were still like choosing our fights. We were just drafting in a way where we obviously would see more bloodshed, but it was controlled fights. It was like, okay, well, we have Diana Yasuo, we're not gonna randomly fight on mid at level 3, we're gonna wait for a 6, we're gonna do these plays and know what's happening on the map, like S5. But that also had some downsides in terms of how we're drafting, stuff like this, and how we play the game. So this split for me especially, I wanted to be on a team that, like, we can win against anyone no matter what, and I think we could last summer as well, obviously, if we were a bit better. But I think this team actually has the chance to, go all the way. We need some things to click, and there's been some, behind the scenes stuff. Maybe people will know, like, that, threw a wrench into it for a little bit, but we're back on track, and I have no doubt that the playoffs will be ours. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
So what does the prep for playoffs look like? Have you guys been scrimming and practicing more, or has it kind of just been keeping everything as it is? Because, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I think last week, as I said, was some stuff happening. So we just had to talk about some stuff, figure it out, and get back on track. And I think we've done that. I think last couple of days of practice have been really good. I think we all understand what we want to do and where we want to go, and just keeping it up, because like, we've lost 3 games this split, 3 B1s. I like the first 2, the first round robin, like, we were a new team just like the rest. It might as well have been a coin flip, and now I think we're actually starting to show a way deadlier form, and I just don't see like a way for us not to like play good anymore. Like, when your worst games are just good, you're like, whoa, I played this game horribly, but we did all these good things as a team. We have all these fundamental stuff down. Like, there's no way for us to grieve. There's no way for us not to have good setups in like 90% of the cases. And if we just keep working on that, that's what we've been working on this whole time. At some point, it reaches a critical threshold of like 95%, and then you can't lose anymore, because 95% of the time, you just have good setup, you have clean understanding of the game, you're on the same page as 5, and we're really starting to get there, and I think yeah, I'm just smiling. I'm just sitting here. Can't wait for players. Can't wait for BU5s. It's gonna be fucking awesome.
I am so excited to see you guys in the playoffs. Denvoxy, congratulations on that win, and we will speak to you again soon, I'm sure of it. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in a bit, all right?
Thank you. See you.
Bye.
And for you guys at home, it is time for us to take a break, and then when we're back with our next very important matchup, which is Veneer versus Nord. It's going to be a doozy. You don't want to miss it, so we'll see you in a moment.